All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about a tennis player who didn't just play the game. He fought his way to the very top of the world. A champion who is defined not just by his talent, but by this incredible, almost stubborn force of will. We're talking about Jim Courier. You know, if you had to boil his entire career down to just one single word, this is it right here. Grit. Seriously, it's the thread that connects every single title, every rivalry, every five-set comeback. It is absolutely the key to understanding what made this guy a legend.
So, to really get the man, you first have to get his game. And let me tell you, he wasn't one of those finesse players, dancing at the net. No. He was a brawler, a fighter who made the back of the court his own personal battleground.
Courier's whole game was basically a war of attrition. He would just plant himself on that baseline and use that massive looping forehand of his, you know the one, hitting it inside out to his opponent's backhand, and just push them side to side over and over until they either made a mistake or, honestly, just couldn't run anymore. It was pure physical dominance, and it was all backed up by this attitude that just refused to lose.
And that relentless style, well, it didn't just win him a few matches. It took him to the absolute pinnacle of the entire sport. Let's just take a look at his incredible, and I mean fast, rise to the top.
I mean, look at this timeline. The speed of his ascent was just stunning. He snags his first major in Paris in '91. The very next year, bam, he's the best player on the planet. And he wasn't just some flash in the pan either. Holding that year-end #1 spot for 2 straight years, '92 and '93, that cemented his place as the undisputed king of men's tennis at the time.
And this right here, this shows you how dominant he was. Think about it, winning the Australian Open on hard courts, and then turning around and winning the French Open on that grueling red clay in the same season, that is a monumental achievement. It takes 2 completely different skill sets and, frankly, an insane level of physical conditioning. And Courier had it all.
In the end, this is the number that really gets etched into the history books. 4. 4 Grand Slam singles titles. And winning 2 in Australia, and 2 at the French Open on those punishing clay courts, well, that's just a testament to his power, his versatility, and that unbelievable persistence.
But his success wasn't just about the 4 majors. Over his career, he racked up an impressive 23 total ATP singles titles. Now, what this number shows you is consistency. It proves he wasn't just a guy who peaked for the big tournaments, he was a serious threat to win every single week he stepped on the court.
So, we've seen what he won, but now let's dig a little deeper into how he won it. Let's break down the different parts that made him such a feared fighter. Right. So we've talked about that huge forehand and the baseline strategy. Those were his physical weapons, for sure. But his greatest weapon, the one that really terrified his opponents, that was all in his head. His legendary mental toughness.
This quote really gets to the heart of it all. You see, other players might have had more natural talent, maybe a prettier game to watch, but you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who was tougher when the match was on the line. He didn't just handle high-pressure moments, he thrived in them. He played his best tennis when it mattered the absolute most. It's a really interesting thing to think about for yourself, right? For most of us, pressure makes us make mistakes. But for champions like Jim Courier, that pressure was like fuel. It just sharpened his focus and made him even more determined.
And that mental toughness, it was constantly being put to the test, because Courier wasn't playing in a vacuum. He was a central figure in what was truly a golden era of men's tennis, an era that was defined by these epic rivalries and a huge sense of national pride.
Man, these matchups were just incredible theater. You had the All-American Classic against Sampras, Courier's brutal baseline attack against Pete's beautiful serve and volley game. Then against Edberg, it was this war of opposing strategies. And against Becker, it was just 2 of the fiercest competitors on the planet refusing to give an inch. These rivalries, they made everybody better.
His commitment also went way beyond his own career. He was instrumental in leading the United States to 4 Davis Cup victories, and that's the biggest international team event in men's tennis. This wasn't about rankings or prize money. This was about playing for your country, and he absolutely excelled at it.
But Courier's story and his contribution to tennis didn't just stop when he hung up his racket. Nope, he found a whole new way to share that incredible knowledge he had of the game.
He made this seamless transition from the court right into the commentary booth, and as an analyst, he gives fans a real insider's perspective, breaking down strategy and the mental side of the game with the same intelligence and intensity he used to win all those matches.
he's still a really powerful voice for the game.
So, we'll end on this question, because Jim Courier's career is maybe the ultimate case study. Here's a guy who took his immense physical gifts and maximized every single bit of them with a will of iron. He proved that sometimes the fight inside you is just more powerful than any weapon you can hold in your hand. So what do you think? For a true champion, what's more important, talent or toughness?